everyone. We're Jeff and Tammy Cahan, and we're happy to be bus captains on this amazing Israel tour. Thank you for getting up so early. We hope you're not too tired from the Tel Aviv nightlife. Also, we hope you have your water bottles. If not, you can get one from the bus driver for just 3 shekels. Now we'd like to turn things over to our guide, Baruch Felberman.
Okay, thank you very much. So you took my line away, like you know what happens when you get to Tel Aviv. So now give me a second. And again, okay, trepidation. Can I do this right? And boom. And we are on. All right, let's just make this a little bit loud. Okay. We're ready to go. Truth is, this I just have this on us to cover up what the next slide is, which has nothing to do with today's tour, but a present to Kim. I finally found down, I went back to Sderot, and there you have, as you make a right turn off of Nitzan Street, look out your left window of the bus, and there you have a good old Kamsa on the side of a building. That's the largest Kamsa I've ever seen. Maybe it's the largest in the world, but there you go. Kim, you could apply this one to your background as well.
I'm taking a picture of it right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Wait, don't change the screen. Oh, and my camera is pretty colorful.
Okay. Kamsa, that's what we say over here. Kamsa. And with that having been done, that should give us the good luck that we should be able to travel through the country. All right, we were up last night, all night in Tel Aviv, city that never sleeps. What we're going to do today, this map has no, by the way, all the time, maps are tough because they're always a statement. I make no political statements at all. This map worked for us. What we're gonna do, we did a nice couple of days down in the southern part of the country. We slept over in the central part of the country along the coast. This is known as the coastal plain. I think we already saw that there's a spine of mountains in the middle of the country. Okay, that's right around over here, the hills of Jerusalem, and we'll get back to that. And right between the hills and the coastal plain is what's known as the lowlands, Shfela. Those are geographic areas in the country. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start in Tel Aviv, head up the coast, cut across the country, right about Tiberias, go straight north into the Hula Valley. Let's see that again, but this time you have to remember everything you saw on the previous map, all the names. What we're gonna do, again, is here's the point that we're gonna be coming up the coast. We have this is topographic. I hope it comes over on your screens as well. These mountains are the Carmel Mountains with Haifa right over here at the tip. We'll get there later today. We're coming up, we're gonna go through a mountain pass into the Jezreel Valley, where we're gonna be later today as well, in the city of Afula, and then head through some of these, the valleys that enables us to cross over the country, you know, because a lot of mountains, we need those mountain passes, hit Tiberias, go on north, right in over here into this valley, and then we're gonna wind up here in the Hula Valley. You can see this is green, this is the valley, over here we have mountains, here we have mountains. Let's go back. We talked about this yesterday, or yesterday I think. What we're doing now is we're seeing that if you're coming up the Red Sea and you hit Eilat, and I hope by now if you're looking at the map of Israel, it's easy. You have the Dead Sea in the middle, you got the Sea of the Galilee, the Kinneret over here, Mediterranean over here, and that usually just gives you the perspective, orientates you with the country. I hope this comes through also on the computer, but you could see that there's like a crack that's going right up as our eastern border of today, like that. In other words, we 2 days ago started down near Eilat. You have here the mountains of the Negev, of the eastern Negev, and here you have the mountains of the state of Jordan. Biblically, this would be Edom. And then you continue going straight. We were visiting the Arava. We came up, we hit the Dead Sea. We slept over here in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is between the mountains of Moab, today the state of Jordan, but biblically we call them the mountains of Moab, which become the mountains of Gilad. On this side, on the Israel side, is going to be your mountains of Judah, followed by the mountains of Benjamin, mountains of Ephraim, mountains of Manasseh. As we continue going from the Dead Sea, we're now inside the Jordan River Valley. And again, we're surrounded by mountains. We continue, we hit the Sea of Galilee, and we're going to go right into here, Hula Valley. On this side, we have the mountains of the Golan Heights. On this side, we're in the Upper Galilee. This is the tribe of Naphtali. So we're going to call this the Heights of Naphtali, Ramot Naphtali. And what we basically see, and this is, I'm talking about, I've been hinting at it, but finally get a chance to see it clearly. This is what's known as the Rift. We call it the Syrian-African Rift. I mentioned those tectonic plates. Israel is part of Africa, the African tectonic plate. Over here on our east, you have the Syrian tectonic plate. And these plates are snug up against each other. They meet up right along in the rift. And what's going on is they're both moving northwards, but Syrian plate's moving quicker than the western side, the African plate. It's about on average 1 meter per year. That's why 2 days ago I mentioned that the copper that we find down over here in Timnah, you find that same kind of copper on the metal DNA that's right over here in Feinan in Jordan, but it's about 100 meters forward. So it's interesting just how, 100 kilometers forward. And that's why these things are alive still. So this explains a lot. This explains why we have right along over here earthquakes. Earthquakes, for example, that would in year 749 would basically just destroy the city of Beit Shan, which we're going to visit today, which will explain why in 1837 you'd have an earthquake that destroys Tzfat, which we're also going to visit today. Just putting things in perspective. There are people who come to Israel to see the Holy Land, some to see history. There's a lot of reasons you come to Israel. There are geologists who travel to this country because right up here in the Hula Valley, there is actually a Crusader fortress that's built right on the rift. And one part, over 800 years, the northern wall of the fortress has actually curved upwards in 8 meters, just a curve in the wall, because it's sitting on the geological rift. It's interesting that it could be so specific as far as where those two tectonic plates meet. That having been said, so we're going up, right? We're going to be going up, crossing the country, hitting the Sea of Galilee, which is right over here, and then heading north into the country. We're sitting right now on the top of this mountain. I bet you some of you could guess, those who've been here before can guess which mountain this is. If we're down below over here, this is Ginosar, very lush area. If you'd be down here looking up, this is the mountain of Arbel. A lot of us who've been here, or let's say in earlier gap year programs, this is one of the most popular hikes that you have in the country. You come up to the top over here, and here we are, all right, congregation, Beth Ahm, just plowing down that side of that mountain. That really makes your heart feel beat quickly. And but if you're on the top over here, you're looking towards the north, you're going to see the Kinneret, and we're going to head straight over here into the Hula Valley. You can see very clearly, as I was trying to explain, that you have the valley over here. On this side, you're going to have the Golan Heights. On this side, we're standing on the heights of Naphtali, with the Hula Valley being a bathtub right between. And the Hula Valley is beautiful today. It's just a lush, like a Garden of Eden. It's not always been like that. If you go back just about, I'd say this about 100 years ago, Kfar Giladi, we're looking again, here's the Golan Heights, we're up on the heights of Naphtali looking into the bathtub. It's all flooded. It's swamps and marshland. And I think this is Kfar Giladi at that time. Nothing is down there, nothing's growing, and there's no settlement. And this is going to take us back to those years in the early 1900s. And this actually does have, the JNF does get involved in this, but this takes us back when we start buying lands. The lands that are available to us for the most part are swamplands, sandy lands along the coastal plain. That's what we're able to buy at this point. So we buy these lands over here, and we're going to have to settle these lands, 1920s. What are we going to have to do? First of all, terrible malaria. Here we got some, this is actually from the 1940s when you still have water buffalo hanging out, but not much is growing over here. We're going to have to reclaim these swamps. We're going to have to clear out the swamps. I'm not sure. I got to get somebody who's good on cars, just to figure out what year this picture is from. But we got a problem over here. We have a lot of malaria. People are dying left and right, and we're not going to be able to settle this part of the country if we don't clear out the swamps. So early on we have to deal with the malaria problem. And finally, we're able to settle the land. And once 1948 comes about, then we have a full-fledged project, one of the first major projects here in the country of land reclaim. This is 1951. This is headed by the JNF, and the attempt will be now, for looking again at the swampland, which is called the Hula Valley, to continue draining it. There's an idea, let's drain out the waters from the Hula. Okay, and here the men are going to work in those malaria-infested swamps, and the idea will be we have to lay some pipes on both sides of the Hula Valley, get the water to drain out better than it is, to head down towards the Sea of Galilee. And what we're going to do, hopefully, will be able to give us much more land. First of all, get rid of the malaria. Secondly, we'll have plenty of land now that we could use as agricultural lands, and that will be supportive of the settlements that we're trying to put down here in the middle of the Hula Valley. And that's going to be the challenge. And it was successful as far as how it looks today. Beautiful. What we have over here, and I understand that as a congregation, you are interested also in nature and sustainability, environmental conservation. This is a real big lesson in, and I mentioned it the other day, that we're scared to play around with the Dead Sea, bring waters into the Dead Sea from an outside source, because you never know what ecologically is going to happen. What happened is when we drained out that Hula Valley, all of a sudden we found that we lost a little filtration in the Hula Valley of waters that were flowing into the Kinneret, and the Kinneret started getting chemical influence. And the problem is that in those days, for sure, even till today, that was our major water source for drinking water source for the entire country. We also found that without natural foliage in the Hula Valley, when wasn't planting going on, then the ground would be, the topsoil would be blown away. We also found that a lot of what was left over of the garbage kind of land, the peat moss that was in there was catching fire spontaneously. It was a big mess. So fortunately, we were able to come back and re-flood parts of that area. In 1964, we re-flooded parts of the Hula Valley. And that is today still called the Nature Reserve. And we fortunately diverted a disaster, an ecological disaster. We learned our lesson and we came off pretty cheap. So this is beautiful. You can go around here in this Hula Nature Reserve. They have over here bridges set up that you can walk through and sort of peek out. Why would you be peeking out of the bridge? Why do they cover it over like this? You know what? Because why? And we're going to get more, because there's a lot of birds that are hanging out over here in this nature reserve and in other parts of the valley, which we'll get to. This is great, by the way. Again, we're looking at the Golan Heights. Look how formidable that Golan Heights are. We're going to get back to that in a moment as far as the history behind this. But there's a lot of birds hanging out over here. How many birds? Well, let's say about 500 million per year, 500 million birds that are passing through the Hula Valley on an annual basis. How come? What's going on exactly over there? So here you got, okay, this is bird migration. And again, we have people, a lot of people on the bus have been in Israel. They've heard a lot of, you go to a place like Jerusalem, tickle the ground. Every empire that existed has marched through Israel. Where are we? We're right over here. Every empire that wants to come from Europe or Asia and wants to cross into Africa, or Africa, you want to cross back into Asia or Mesopotamia or Iran, everybody's crossing through the land bridge, which is known as Israel. It's not only true with armies, it's true with birds as well. Birds are in Africa for the winter, and then when they want to fly up to Europe to spend the summer in Europe, and they're migrating. So they can't just they can't just cross the Mediterranean. They have to rest at some point along the way. So sometimes they cross right over here through Gibraltar. Sometimes the birds from Africa are going to cross and hit the boot of Italy. But a lot of the birds are actually flying up and crossing to the Sinai and going right up the Syrian African Rift. It's an easy flight for them. There's water along the way, and then they'll head on to, for the winter, they're going to head to Africa. For the summer, head to Europe. Let's see that again. Remember, we just saw this map that they're really just flying straight up that in between, in the valleys that you find between these mountains, and they're going to go straight up like that. And they're going to spend some extra time over here in the Hula Valley because it's such a rich environment, and there's a lot of not only water, but there's a lot of foliage that's going on. There's a lot of stuff to eat. And that's what we see today. What happened is not only do we have that Hula Valley Reserve, but also in the 1990s, there was in a year that there was a lot of rain. The Hula Valley became flooded. And here, the JNF moved in and decided that they're going to keep the flooding in place and work around it and develop the lands around it. And what they produced is the Hula Lake Park. It's an area, beautiful area that is set up, and just, you go up north, you go visit there, nice walkways for people. And we're back to watching those birds. Here in the Hula Park, what we have is, this is like a camouflaged, what do they call this one? It's a camo, you sit in here, it's camouflage, so you can come up close to seeing the birds. We get tremendous amount of cranes, 35,000 cranes come in. You're looking at cranes, and this is more cranes. This is when the curtains are up, but this is how you could get close to the birds. They'll take you in here. And we got our good old fashioned pelicans that fly by. There's a 390 species every year that comes right by. Israel has become known. We're a little country, but everything's happening in Israel. And also from all over the world, you have people coming, the bird watchers come to Israel. It's an excellent place to see the birds. And we're back to over here. Problem is, if you have that many birds, so it's really going to wreak havoc for all the farms that you have all around here in the Hula Valley. What are we going to do? How are we going to deal with it? So what we do, the government does get involved, and we drop off 2 tons of corn, of maize, on a daily basis during migration season, just so that the birds have something else to eat other than the crops that are growing here in the Hula Valley. Here's when we drop off the food, and the birds are just lining up. And that's what's going on. Beautiful place. You can take your families over here. A lot of fish life has come back. Famous, these things are really ugly, I have to say. If you see them up close, mudfish. But it's just such an amazing area of flora and fauna with the bicycle paths. Again, we're here in the Hula looking at the Golan. And we have to say hello to our Hula painted frog, because this is an example of what happened. Because of the fact that we messed with the ecology, there were certain species that we thought were extinct. In 1996, this little guy was classified as being extinct. And in 2011, he all of a sudden showed back up. There he goes. Yeah, that's a little uglier. Showed back up. Since then, we found about only another 10 or so of them. He's now classified as critically endangered. But it's a sign that, you can make rectification, and hopefully things will just continue to grow over there. Just amazing what's been produced over here as a wonderland for people to come and visit up there in the Hula. And again, here we're back again at the JNF Lake Park, just enjoying this case. We're looking towards the north. This actually happens to be the hills of Naphtali. So you get a feel of what it's like. You have these hills over here, you come really down into this Hula Valley is really just deposited between on the right side, on the west, on the left side, you have the hills of Naphtali, and then you have the hills right over here, Golan Heights, plus the mountain caps over here of the tallest place in Israel, and that's going to be the mountain of Hermon. Bread basket. That's what's going down in the Hula. And here again, beautiful. You can see high above us, the tallest place in Israel. It's about 6,000 plus feet above sea level. It's called the Hermon Mountain. This is where we do our skiing. This is kind of fun in Israel. Again, it's a small country, right? Good things come in small packages. We're a small country, but there's a lot of stuff over here. So if you're going to go skiing, you're going to be up in the Hermon. You could do skiing in the morning, get in your car, scoot down to Eilat, and do some wonderful snorkeling with a unique, very, very unique coral reef in Eilat. So you could do both in the same day. Small country, but there's a lot that got packed into it. What's interesting also is what we have on top here, the snow and the rain When this melts down, it's going to come down into the Hula Valley and then head straight into the Kinneret, into the Sea of Galilee. It's one of our water sources. What's interesting is that in the 6-Day War, we actually claimed 20% of it's a mountain range, the Hermon. It goes back into Syria. We have 20% of it is under Israel rule. What's interesting is underground, that the way that the mountain range is set up under the ground, about 60% of the water that falls on the mountain range actually flows into Israel. So one of those interesting things that happens underground. There has been dealings, the water is a crucial issue in the Middle East. We have an arrangement, part of our peace treaty with Jordan is the supplying of water from the Sea of Galilee to Jordan. Part of the 1967 war broke out for numerous reasons. One of the things is also at that time is that Syria is trying to divert some of the waters that was coming down to the Hula. It's an issue. I just saw last week, actually, they were talking about up here. If you continue straight up, you'll hit Lebanon, that Hezbollah in Lebanon is doing some work over there. It's just like recent stuff that they're trying to set up some kind of a lake. It's going to affect the waters that are coming down from Lebanon into the area. We'll see how that plays out in the future. Again, we're looking down here at the Hula Lake of the JNF. I just want to mention in passing, and I'm going to mention it very quickly, but I would not be doing my job, just that we should have an appreciation of some of the miracles that goes on over here in the country. What did Ben Gurion say the first day? That if you don't believe, it goes two ways. I see the quote, you don't believe in miracles, you're not a realist. Or to be a realist, you have to believe in miracles. They're slightly different. What we're in the Hula Valley, what we're looking now is towards the east, towards the Golan Heights. You go up these heights, and then actually you can see across the Golan Heights, this is actually our eastern border with Syria. And these little mountains over here, they extend all the way through. You can see the tops of them as they extend on the eastern border with Syria. These are actually volcanoes. And it's a natural defense against Syria is this line of volcanoes. It makes it difficult, especially in tank battles, which happens here in the Middle East, that your tanks trying to cross over the Golan Heights would have to navigate between different volcanoes, and therefore we establish our defenses there. What I want to mention is that we finally settled this area in the early 1900s. A lot of the kibbutzim, this is kibbutzim that settled in there. By the time we got to 1967, a lot of the children of the kibbutzim were officers in the army. Originally in the 6-Day War, we did not have in mind, the government did not have in mind, let's put it this way, up until 1967, the Syrian army were up on these mountains and very easily, and often doing so, shooting down at the kibbutzim that were in the valley. 1967, the government was really not looking into taking over the Golan Heights, but a lot of the officers in the army said, look, we've been living since 1948 under constant shooting from the Syrian army, just pot shots whenever they wanted to. The officers said to the upper echelons, this is the time we have to push back that Syrian threat. And there was a decision made. It's sort of like this happens a lot of times in the Israeli army. It's one of our strengths, that in respectful fashion, but younger officers will tell upper officers ideas. So there's a lot of ideas going on. And the miracle of it was that within 2 days, our children, our boys were able to climb up. Syrians are up on top shooting down, and they were able to climb on up, push the Syrians back over the Golan Heights. And we were able to push the Syrian threat away from the Hula Valley. Since then, the Golan has become also a wonderful vacation area. This is from a little more south called Kibbutz Ein Gev. It's one of the older kibbutzim, looking up towards the Golan Heights. And that's what is amazing. As my son once said to me, we were coming home, I think he was like in first, second grade, something like that. He goes, we're talking about sports. And he said, Dad, Abba, says, it's a good thing that God plays on our team. And that's one of these situations, like go figure it out. But it's an amazing part. If you study the 6-Day War, there's a lot of amazing things that happen one of these times. Oh, this is actually from Kibbutz Ein Gev. Look at Amazing, amazing. Okay, we got to get back on the bus and keep traveling. We have a lot to do today. So we're going to go from the Hula Valley and we're going to head up to Kiryat Shmona. Kiryat Shmona is named actually after 8 people that died defending, during the 1920s, defending the settlements that were present in the Hula Valley. One of the people amongst those 8 was Trumpeldor, was a famous Russian officer who came to this country in the 20s to help with the defense of the fledgling, very much prior to the state, but the new settlements. Kiryat Shmona is like, Metula is all the way up in the north, right? But Kiryat Shmona is pretty much up there. Our challenge is just like towards the Negev, but if you come all the way up towards the north, beautiful areas. Problem is, we need work, you need jobs. We want to settle these areas. And here we are again on the hills of Naphtali, looking down at Kiryat Shmona, looking across towards the Golan Heights and the mountain of Hermon. Right over here, you're already in Lebanon, Hezbollah land. All right, so that's what we're dealing with. But one of the ideas, just like we had something called the JNF Blueprint Initiative for the Negev, so too, and Kim might have spoken about this the other day. Also up in the north is, I think it's called Go North, but there's an initiative by the JNF to settle the north. How are you going to do that? By giving opportunities. And therefore, up in the north, they're building a culinary institute, which is kind of cool. I'll just give you a quick little show.
Baruch, we talked about this last night.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm super excited to be sharing with you our upcoming.
Did you see any of the pictures of it?
They just listened to me. They didn't show a video. Go ahead.
Should I show? Okay, it's very short.
Yeah.
Culinary Academy with the Jewish National Fund and myself in creating a unique international culinary center in the Upper Galilee in Israel.
Not a cooking school, a full-blown culinary arts school where you will learn everything about culinary arts, from the front of the house to the back of the house, from food security to food technology, from inventory to bookkeeping and accounting and running your own restaurant. Our students will be trained by top professionals and celebrity chefs that will be coming. And we will turn the Upper Eastern Galilee to the culinary capital of the world. Stay tuned.
Okay. Very cool there. Alrighty, so that is some of the stuff that's going on, and Kim explained it. Kim, it's not. I don't think it's up and running yet because of COVID. Is that
It's
correct?
still building. It's still kind of in the final stages. Despite COVID, it was a little bit of a setback, but they're moving forward with it. But it probably will roll out in the fall.
Yeah, that's fantastic, unbelievable. Okay, something to go visit when we come back here. That is off the beaten path. Once you're up here, go up to Metula, take a look into Lebanon. It's always fun to see what Hezbollah is doing. Bring a baseball glove just in case, they shoot up something, you have to catch it. Okay, we don't make jokes about that, right? Okay, let's get back on the bus. We're gonna head down, start heading south. This is as far north as we get. So we hit the Egyptian border yesterday. Today we're hitting the border with Lebanon. Let's head back down and we're gonna go to Tzfat, Safed, okay? And it's what we're doing now. If you go on again, most people have been in Israel. There are some of us on the bus here who have not been here. So either as a walk down memory lane or just to, give a taste for people who have not yet been here in Tzfat so that when they come to visit, they'll know what to expect. The usual tour in Tzfat, the beaten path in Tzfat is going to be that you come on in, you see the old housing and the artist colonies, and you spend a lot of time. It's just really beautiful, as you could see. And again, the housing will go back. This is Ottoman type style houses. Again, 1837, most of the houses were wiped out, but then Tzfat was rebuilt. So most of the housing you see here is from the mid 1800s. Again, universal language of, I should have bought 20 years ago, 30 years ago. When we first came here, myself and my wife, I've been involved in teaching and gap year programs. We used to come up here for Shabbat with the programs. You could have picked up like a hovel for nothing. And now it's like it's taken off and people just redo the houses. It's beautiful, beautiful. This is on the beaten path. You're going to come to the old city of Tzfat. This is what it looks like. You walk through it, you see the old housing, and let's say you come right down to this spot over here and you look out into the valley, what you'll see is the ancient burial, the ancient cemetery of Tzfat, where this building, for example, down over here is supposedly there's one of the prophets who are buried over there. On the side of the mountain, you have Hannah and her 7 sons. That's from the Hanukkah story, going back to the Greek period. And you look across the valley of the Amud Valley, and over here on the side of the mountain, you'll see what is known as Meron. This is another aspect of Tzfat that comes in, and that's when we start talking about that buried here in Meron is the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai from the, this goes back 1800 years, who's the author of the Kabbalistic book known as the Zohar, the basic Kabbalistic book. On the holiday of Lag BaOmer, it's like the country all of a sudden flips over, because you're dealing here with about, I think it's 800,000, I think was the count from the last Lag BaOmer. Last Lag BaOmer was with COVID 2 years ago. The country just has this connection up with this Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. They come up here, it's a single day event, right? They come up here, it's like a military exercise. How are you gonna arrange that you have 800,000 people move on into this little spot over here? And but that's going to be part of the usual tour. But that opens up to us the part of Tzfat that is what makes Tzfat so beautiful, and why is there a lot of artistry going on over here. It's going to open us up to the realms of Kabbalah. So just a little bit of background to understand what happened in Tzfat. We'll do this rather quickly, keeping an eye on the clock. The Ottoman Empire it's very easy, actually. Israel, when's our independence? 1948. The British are here pretty much 30 years. If you take November 29th of 1947 is when the partition plan is agreed on by the UN, that the UN decides instead of having the British to continue their mandate, we're going to partition Israel into both Jewish and Arab states. So if you go back, British are really here for 30 years. So go back from 1947 to 1917, end of World War I. And the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Turkish Empire is here 400 years. So we're dealing with like round numbers, 30 years for the British, 400 years for the Ottoman Turks. The Ottoman Empire starts out in the early 1500s. There's a fellow named Suleiman the Magnificent, Suleiman the Magnificent. He's the fellow who actually builds the old city walls of Jerusalem, the ones that we recognize. That's his accomplishment. He inherits an Ottoman Empire in 1520, looks like this. By 1566, when he dies, this is what he's done to it. He's expanded it all over. He's like ruling the world over here, and Israel's right in the middle. What this is important for us, or what this is important, is that if you have an empire such as this, and it's so strong, there's good thing. I mean, he does it because he's brutal, but what comes out of it is what? You could travel the lands, you could travel, it's safe to be on the highways, you have an economic boom that's going to take place. Also, 1492, what's happening in 1492 over here in Spain and in Portugal? Spanish Inquisition. Jews, the major Jewish communities of Spain and Portugal, they're moving, they had to leave. And you have a lot of Jews that actually come across and settle in Tzfat. So the mid-1500s is an amazing year. Beaten Path Tour is going to take you to synagogues such as this, the Abu Hav Shul, which has a lot of symbolism within the synagogue of the different drawings and different, like the amount of stairs and pillars. This is part of the regular tour. You're going to come also to a place, a simple synagogue, but older, which is named after Rabbi Joseph Cairo. Rabbi Joseph Cairo is in the mid-1500s. He's going to be the one who's going to author what's known as the Shulchan Aruch, a basic halachic, Jewish book of Jewish law. At the same time period, this synagogue is named after the Ari. The Ari is one of the teachers of, let's say, the beginning of modern Kabbalah. In other words, working on the books of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but starting to teach it and push it a little bit more forward. A lot of the Hasidic elements within the Jewish people today are based on Ari Kabbalah. This is things you see when you walk around Tzfat. What it opens us up to is understanding that Tzfat's very heavily tied into Kabbalistic teachings. And the quaintness of it has opened it up in our days to the art, with the art gallery, but the combination of the two brings us to off the beaten path. And for example, when next time you're in Tzfat, this is a really fascinating woman. Her name is Sheva Chaya. She is a glassblower and a painter, as you can see some of her work over here. Here she's writing actually a Megillah scroll. She's calligraphy also, and religious calligraphy. Here she's doing a workshop. She does workshops. And as she's doing, she learned in Princeton. She has a story about how she got to Tzfat. So as she's doing the workshop, she talks about not only her life and her connection into spirituality and mysticism, which brought her to Tzfat, while it's also being very grounded. And she runs a fine show over here. But as she's doing the glass blowing, she often will talk about the the imagery of the glass blower as being a basic one of like lessons within Kabbalah. If you think about her as the glass blower, she's the person she's the glass blower. And usually, if you ever see these people who work on glass blowers, they have the long tube and there's the molten glass at the bottom of the tube, and they take a deep breath and they blow in, they puff up their cheeks, they blow into the tube, and their air is in their cheeks and goes down the tube and starts to expand the molten glass at the end of the tube. That's the glass blower. She'll talk about it, the glass blower, as being the imagery of the blower being, in Kabbalistic terms, being God, the puffing up being the emanation or the soul generated from God that starts close to upper levels of spirituality, extending down. That would be the neshama, the soul, extending down through the glass blower's tube. We'd call that the ruach, the spirit, and connecting into what we call the nefesh, the part of the soul that's expanding the vessel, the kli. What's the vessel? That's going to be our body. So it's interesting that you see this in Tzfat, these ideas of that's a basic discussion about the fact that our souls are part of our body, but it has, expands to different levels of different realms of existence. So she's going to be doing this artistry, working there in front of your face and talking about these Kabbalistic concepts. It's a real wild thing. And when you get to Tzfat, the next level, besides seeing the synagogues and the recognition of the what's going on, is to be able to go into something like that. You have other people, you have artists, Kabbalistic artists. This fellow's name is David Friedman. I like the idea of art that can be used in contemplation to bring people into a sacred space. Friedman is, I think he's from Denver, but Friedman this is his kind of art. In other words, and he gives lectures. You come in and he'll give you an hour lecture for free. I guess people hang around and buy his stuff, but he'll talk about different, this piece that he has. I've been in his lecture numerous times. This piece, you could see it as either shooting away from you or coming towards you. So he talks about space and Kabbalah or spirituality that you feel towards, sacred space, he calls it. This is also some of his works, some straight up paintings, but he also has these things he calls the 32, I forget, it's kind of Kabbalistic ideas. He puts his ideas down on the page. He's very much into number systems. He's got something about the number 8, and he also, you could see the letter, the Jewish letter from the Jewish alphabet, the Aleph is that, and here's the other part of the Aleph as it goes like that. He gives lectures on this, the concept, the spiritual significance of the letters of the alphabet, of the alphabet, the Jewish alphabet, and spirituality within numbers. Fascinating ideas, and this is off the beaten path. Kabbalistic prayer, what's this? With the 42 letters. Again, beautiful ideas, and they give lectures on it. There's another fellow up there named Avram Lowenthal, and this is his art. And this is just a short amount of what he has. You can go online and find these guys, and like you press on the button and this is his latest thing he's been working on. Meditational map of the sounds of the shofar. And Each of the 100 sounds corresponds to a particular aspect of our inner consciousness. Each progressive sound represents deeper levels of love and spiritual awareness. On his site, he talks about it, but it's a little bit lengthier. And he's been mapping out the blows of the
Baruch,
yes.
pardon me. He's a Metro Detroiter.
Yeah. Okay.
That's from Nancy Goldberg. It was a classmate of hers.
No
And I'm just going to
kidding.
interrupt also because the piece you just showed, Baruch, is right here on my screen. Because my daughter just came home with it 2 weeks
No
ago.
kidding. Go figure. Okay. Okay. You probably, and Rabbi, I think he gives out like page long, a couple page long explanation on Kabbalistic levels.
I haven't read it yet, but it's in my kitchen. Yes.
How about that? Okay, great.
Avram Lowenthal's work. I've got it on my wall.
No kidding. All right, so listen, he's really interesting. So we bring birth. Oh, there it is. There we go. I recognize that one. We bring birthright groups to Avram Lowenthal. He is one cool fellow. He sits down with them on the floor. Then he talks about spirituality and how these ideas. And again, we're not talking about. You guys are, a congregation. We're not talking about commandments, mitzvot, directives, nothing, right? We're talking a birthright group, but he does talk about connecting up, about Jewish mysticism and connecting up and saying that he grew up not realizing that mysticism is not just out there in the Far East, but Judaism. We have parts of our religion that there's mysticism that goes back, like I mentioned to you, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's 1800 years ago, but it goes back further. So he's very much into it, and he talks about it. It's really nice to see these young Jewish kids, like all of a sudden they say, wow, I didn't know that was part of our religion. It's very fascinating. The first guy said David Friedman is a little bit more cerebral in his lectures. This is kind of stuff that's going on in Tzfat today, the combination of the modern art with the Kabbalistic background of Tzfat. It's really amazing. There's much more to see, but we got to get back on our bus and keep traveling. So here also just a piece of, we need more time, but up in Tzfat, there's one spot you would stop if you're in Tzfat, and that's going to be right here in the middle of the city. We're staring at the old British police station, along with in front of the police station that's here, this in its entirety is a pillbox. You can see the little metal window because pillbox being that soldiers inside are protected. They could shoot out of this window, but they're protected with the metal. And this will take us back to the Independence War, a great Tzfat story. This is, it's May, I think 11th. We're trying, what the British, when they left, actually based upon population concentrations, would give over their fortresses or whatever they have, police stations, to wherever had the majority of police of population. Tzfat at the time, in the area, there's 10,000 Arabs. This is given over to the Arab population. And we had 1,000, pretty much old and families and of Jews in the old city. Things look pretty bad. The British actually wanted to take us out of Tzfat. People have been living in Tzfat for hundreds of years. There's no way they were going to leave it. And things look pretty bad. The midst of the night, the Palmach, that elite fighting unit of the early state, they come marching through that valley, the Amud Valley, which I showed you. They came from Meron. And towards the morning, they're walking through the narrow streets of Tzfat. And as they march in, singing the song, I mentioned to the end, the shutters, everyone opens their shutters and they feel like, it's amazing, it's who's coming in, Messiah's coming in. But it was a tough battle. And what happened though, is that this is an introduction to what's known as the Davidka. You find there were 6 of these made. There's one in the middle of Jerusalem also, the Davidka. Davidka was like made by a fellow named David Leibowitz, named after him, but also Davidka being like David, little David fighting against Goliath. Davidka was kind of cool in the fact that it weighed a lot, it was big, and it made a heck of a noise, very inaccurate because the missile itself, the mortar itself, extended outside from the pipe. made a lot of noise, not a lot of damage, but that noise got people frightened. There's a lot of times that the Arabs in 1948 in the Independence War ran away because just the amount of noise involved. They put also pieces of metal on it that make whistles and all kinds of sounds. May, I think it's 11th, sometime in May. Things are pretty bleak, but they bring the Davidka in and we're shooting. We're trying to take over the British, and it is because of the self-sacrifice and the bravery. But the British police station was taken, but the Davidka was brought up. With the amount of noise that it made, and for some reason in May, if you're in Israel in May, you look at the sky, what do you see? Correct, nothing. You see nothing, blue skies. For some reason, and this particular day when the fighting is going on, they're shooting off the Davidka with all that noise, it's a torrid rain pour. It's just a fluky thing, but it got around amongst the Arab forces and people in the area that the Jews have, with all the noise that Davidka was making and the rain, the Jews must have an atomic weapon, and the rain is obviously atomic fallout. So basically, they picked up and left, and that's how we got Tzfat in 1948. I want to talk about the miracle of Hanukkah happening like 2,160 years later. That's what happens in our wars. It's good that God plays on our team. Let's get on the bus, go quickly off of Tzfat. We're heading down south. We're going to pass for a second by Nabi Shu'aib. So Nabi Shu'aib, this is what it looks like. Nabi Shu'aib means, Nabi means Navi, prophet. Shu'aib is the one who shows the right path. This is actually, let's go inside. This is actually a shrine, or no, it's a burial spot for this Nabi Shu'aib, who, this is the holiest site for the Druze in Israel today. They believe that this Nabi Shu'aib, who's mentioned in the Quran, they have it that it's traditionally Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law. They feel that he was a great prophet, and he's like the top religious leader for the Druze. Who's the Druze? Druze only makes up about 1.6% of the country. Druze are about 1,000 years. The religion originally stems from Islam, but they're not Muslim. By this stage, it's an independent religion, somewhat secretive, even for the people in their community, in their people. That you have to, at a certain point, have to commit yourself to a certain way of life, and that's when the secrets of the religion is revealed. But the Druze were intensely persecuted by the Muslims throughout their time, and therefore they have an attitude of being very loyal and patriotic to the nations they find themselves in. Therefore, the Druze are very much involved. They're one of the success stories of a minority in Israel who are very involved, very integrated into the country. They serve in the army. They're well above, if they're only 1.6%, they have about 4% representative in the Knesset, 5 Knesset members from the Druze. In every aspect of society, you'll find them in upper echelons, a lot in the army, a lot in the officer corps of the army. Very fascinating. And the Druze are concentrated in the Haifa area, in the Carmel and the Haifa area. They're also concentrated up near the Golan Heights. The Druze in the Golan Heights have not taken up citizenship. They have a lot of tie-ins to Syria, but the Druze in the Haifa area, again, have been Israel citizens since 1948. This is their you could go visit, you could come on in. This is the Druze in Israel, one of the minorities that we have here. We're gonna go quickly down towards Beit Shan, and just to get a feel of it very quickly. Beit Shan it goes back thousands of years. You can see from up above, this is the old tell, the old ancient, the hill of Beit Shan. A tell is sort of like a man-made hill, just because if you had a city on a little bit of a raised hill and it gets destroyed, the next empire comes in and rebuilds. If that gets destroyed, then the next empire comes in and rebuilds, always on the destruction from the previous empire. So over the course of time, you're just building and building and building, and it goes up. Therefore, this is the old Beit Shan. Already in the Hellenistic period of the Greeks, we came down into off the tell, because you had, like, we talk about Pax Romana, it was Pax Greece already. things are a little bit quieter. But what we have in this, I'm going to make a quick run through the city. And it goes back to biblical times. Remember this fellow, Gustav Doring? This is a depiction of after King Saul is killed by the Philistines, he and his sons, they decapitated them and then hung their heads and their bodies on the walls of Beit Shan. The men of Gilad, which I mentioned earlier, that's the mountain range across the Jordan River, actually in the middle of the night come by, and this is when they're removing the bodies from the wall. That goes back biblical times. This city was destroyed finally in the 700s by an earthquake, but it was for centuries. It was a huge city where it's situated in Beit Shan. It's very much central to the area, and therefore is very populated. And you could see the beauty of it and the extent of it, expanse of it, and it's been excavated. You got here. Look at this. This sits 7,000 people over here. You got a stage in front of us. This stage and the area down below, you'd have always, you'd have plays going on. But this was, though, will take us back. I understand you also guys have an interest in the cultural events that were going on. This area below over here off the stage could be flooded with water so that you could have you'll have like sports. What kind of sports? People in boats coming past each other and fighting it out. Yeah, what kind of fighting it out are we talking about? We're talking about real live fighting it out that you killed the person in the other boat. And that's the kind of stuff that was going on over here. If you look back in our Talmud, this is a big culture clash between what's going on in pagan Rome and the rabbis and the sages and what's in our Talmud, and they're looking askance at this kind of attitude towards human life. This is something, again, which is our heritage, which we've been successful in spreading throughout the world, the appreciation and the value of human life and protecting every life possible. It goes back to these periods of time over here in Beit Shan itself. Beautiful what you have. This is interesting also, which is also, what do you think? Give you half a second. What do you think? It looks like, piano keys. What is it that we're looking at exactly? Boom, you got it. Let's look closer. This actually is a public bathroom. Yeah, you sit, I hate to be, you sit between the stones. There would be water running underneath. And this thing over here was another water stream that enabled you to wash your hands or, missed that, whoop, okay. Or you'd rent when you came in like a sponge on a stick, which you'd used for personal hygiene, and then be able to wash it off inside the stream over here. Why am I telling you this? It's a little bit gross, but the reason I'm telling it to you is because, wait, what's missing from this bathroom? Hey, where's the stalls? No stalls. This is pastime. You'd go over here, you'd see the play, and then during the intermission, everyone would come over here and you'd have a public, this is how it was, public bathrooms. This is very foreign to us, but this, again, you'll find in the Talmud where they discuss like what would be proper conduct, modesty. These are all things that are Jewish heritage that has been spread around, and it was in our battle with the Romans. We're going to go through part of the, what we do have over here left over is actually, this would be in front of the bathhouse. We have a very well preserved bathhouse over here. This would be an area that before you went into the bathhouse, you'd work up a sweat by wrestling in the front. And then you come, this is well preserved here, the Roman bathhouse. How did it work? Well, you'd have furnaces over here that would be blowing hot air. These little columns on top of it is where you'd sit. There'd be a floor. And underneath the flooring is where the hot air would be blown. And you'd have some tubs around that would get hot enough this would be enclosed, the room, and it's a sauna. This is where you have the sauna. Problem is that sometimes the flooring would actually fall in, so that it's reported in the Talmud that I guess in some places, if you fell in, that was pretty bad. So there were certain, here again, this would be floored over. You'd be sitting on this flooring. There is a place the Talmud mentions that there was a guy in his town, at least, whenever he used to go to the bathhouse and come out okay, he used to say this blessing because he made it out successfully. That's pretty wild. Like, I don't know why they even tried, but I guess that's what was going on at the time. Every self-respecting old ancient Roman city is going to have a major thoroughfare that runs right down the middle, north-south. Being that this is the heart of the city, how is your Latin today? What is called the heart of the city? Cardiology is the heart. Cardo, this is your cardo. And you can see a broad expanse, usually 11 meters. You have sidewalks over here. These columns would hold up roofs that you'd be able to walk on the sidewalk, and you have the stores on the side. Where do you see that as well? Experienced travelers, this reminds us of the Cardo in Jerusalem, the same idea, street, sidewalk. Okay, and this is a famous mural in Jerusalem, which gives us the feeling of exactly what the Cardo looked like. That still remains. You have a lot of stuff was left over, the tops of the columns, this is actually the god, what's his name again? I wrote it down someplace. Dionysus, the god of wine, which Beit Shan used to worship him. And just beautiful, beautiful what you have over here. This was the area that held stores on the side, or could be an area of ill repute. Everything's found over here. You go a little bit outside the main area, what you have is, what does this look like to you? It was originally made as a hippodrome, but then afterwards it became, we invited Russell to join us on the boat. Yeah, Russell, good old gladiators. And that's what it was. Here's where the nobility, they're a little bit raised, but this is where people would have to come in. Either you're a slave and you get thrown in here and you have to fight against the animals, or the gladiators. And it's called an arena. Why? Because arena in Greek or Roman is sand. The place had sand on the floor to grab up all the blood, soak up the blood. Again, the rabbis in the Talmud, one who sits in a stadium is a shedder of blood. It means if you paid your ticket to go on in for these kind of battles, that's what was going on. Hey, you have a say in it. However, again, from the Talmud, to go to stadiums is permitted because one can shout and rescue. Straight up, thumbs up, thumbs down, straight out of the movies. The guy the slave put up a good fight, but then he's on the ground with the gladiator with the sword up against the neck. It was up to the crowd sometimes to make the change. So if you could possibly save somebody, you have to come. We see these things that bring us back 2,000 years to cultures that's so foreign to us. And it's foreign to us because not only because we live even in our secular cultures, it's foreign, but it's because that's Jewish heritage that was battle with the Roman pagan culture, violent culture, but we changed the world. And that's part of our heritage that we see when we travel around. I got 2 minutes or so, a quick jump over to Afula. Just want to report back. Afula is an example of that. It was originally absorption town. You had the old main market area. It became neglected because of the larger shopping malls that were opening up. And then at some point, some younger artisans in connection with the municipality opened up, they redid the old market area. This is how it is on the outside. This is how it is on the inside during the day. And this is what happens at night. Get the nightlife comes out, bands. There's a lot of artistry, also artisans around. I'm not sure what they're doing over here, but it's happening. Something's happening. And this is in front of these people who got together. It's called V'ahavta. In other words, you should love. And that's what, from the shortening, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you should love your friend like yourself. This is a change that's going on. And it starts from the artistry and the craftsmanship. And there's actually an Israeli involvement. It's called Makom, or it's place that you have throughout communities who band together to change over, to build the communities, to refurbish them. The JNF is very involved, has partnered up with Makom, giving the needed funds for them to be able to get into the grassroots over there and change from the inside. A lot of these small communities makes a tremendous difference. If the middle of your city is going to be run down and drug infested, or something as beautiful as this, big change. Again, big change on the ground. That's a JNF initiative up there in a number of communities. From this point, we're going to shoot straight over. It's been a long, long day. We got to go to Haifa. And tonight we're actually staying in Haifa in the top of the line Don Carmel, where you have beautiful, beautiful rooms and a telescope even, not to spy on people, but to look out and from the top of the hills of Haifa, look down towards Haifa Bay. Along with that, you also get to see the beautiful Baha'i Gardens. And this is going to set us up for tomorrow. We're going to continue up in the north at the Baha'i Gardens, but not over here. This is the beaten path. Off the beaten path, there is another Baha'i Gardens. Where? In Akko. We're going to start over there tomorrow. I'm going to be going around the north. And again, I'm really concerned. But the Baha'i at night, like if you're over here down below the Baha'i, where we're standing right now is the German colony. This is our hotel over here. This is our rooms. And hey, this is the kind of thing that you could stay up all night and looking at. And so try to get some sleep anyway, because we got a lot to do tomorrow. That's the quickest hour that I think I've ever spent in my life.
Thank
Such
you
a
so
pleasure being with
much.
all of you.
Thank you,
all so much.
Tammy and Jeff. You have to unmute yourself.
Second.
Are you unmuted?
We've been muted.
Okay. Well, thanks to everyone for taking part. Another great day on the bus. And thank you to Baruch Felberman for another fascinating day in Israel. We hope to see everyone tomorrow. And don't forget to order your Israeli dinner from our own Dish Kosher Cuisine. Over to you, Sharona.
All right. So I'm going to say
Okay.
goodbye now. As
Thank
you have your
you.
private time. We'll see you
Thanks,
tomorrow night.
Baruch.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Baruch.
Get some
Okay.
sleep.
At this point, I want to invite Benji to unmute himself. Benji's our guest speaker this evening, and he is a person who was born and lived for most of his life in Jerusalem and Yerushalayim, and then met his wife, who's from the Huntington Woods area, decided he was living in New York and was serving as a real estate agent, and they wanted to return to Huntington Woods, which, as you all know, is a beautiful community in the Metro Detroit area. And he decided, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his adventure as a culinary artist, and because we had a chance to see all the beautiful foods that were being developed in Israel. And I'm turning it over to Benji.
Hi, shalom everyone. Thank you, of course, for not running late for the bus. We're having a wonderful tour today, and I'm very proud to be on the bus. Every time I see pictures and presentations about Israel, that really warms my heart, and it's the place I grew up. I feel belong, and it's always great to spend time and see that more people are interested about that wonderful place. So I want to talk about a little bit about myself and how I got to the TruckShuka idea. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. I went to the army for 3 years, a little more than that, but yeah, went to the army. I was dealing with radios, fixing a lot of radios in the field, off the field, pretty interesting work. And I want you to know, growing up in Israel, some of you were here on the bus, been to Israel or not. One of the things that you remember from Israel, or if you've been, is the flavors, the taste, the smell of things, walking into the shuk, getting everything fresh. So growing up in Israel, I think we had this for granted. Everyone from my friends and family, we've been cooking a lot at home. My mom is coming from a family of 6, and my father is coming from a similar size family, and it's all about meeting together in holidays, and everyone share his own recipes. One of the best memories I have is every Thursday and Friday is just for the weekend is coming. I go with my mother to the shuk, Machne Yehuda in Jerusalem, which is like really amazing farmers market where you get everything super fresh and you just take the bus in the morning. And I just hop there, pick all the groceries from my mom and go home. And then this is happening with most of the families in Jerusalem or around the country. It's just they're getting together on Friday night and the holidays, which makes the wonderful experience with everyone. So I been to the army for a couple of years, and then I released, and I wanted to explore. I went to New York, which I got some family there. I started working in real estate, which was really interesting and fun work to do. And in 2012, I met my wife, Jessica, in a dance party, which was really a fun way to to meet other and not online dating, and not something bad, but I think it's just great. So we met in a party, we started dating, and a couple of years later, she wanted to move back home to Michigan. And I was a little bit, I was ready for a new challenge. 10 years in New York, I felt it was like a good amount of time and great experience and good connections, and time to move on. So we moved back to Michigan, and at first I did not really know anything or anyone, so it was a little hard for me to decide what to do. I knew I did not want to keep doing real estate as a broker agent, maybe in the future as an investor. So I just checked my options, and one day I remember I was walking down the Eastern Market. Who's ever been to Detroit who'd never been to Detroit is a wonderful market. Maybe it's one of the oldest farmers market in the country, and it's just a great vibe. And it was a Tuesday, and I'm walking down, and then I see a food truck, and another food truck, and then another food truck, and I was just looking at them, and at the point that I really have to find something to do, and I realized, okay, let's see, maybe look into buying a food truck and starting this journey. And yeah, so a few months after I moved here, a couple of months, I bought a food truck, and I decided I'm gonna sell Israeli food. At first, I was a little concerned because of the population of the Arab in Southeast Michigan, but I didn't really know what to do with that, because I did not really want to do Israeli food. I was afraid of what people will say, but at the end, I just decided, this is who I am, and it's just what it is. So I decided to brand my food as fully Israeli and 100% and authentic, and we started the food truck. We were all vegetarian, selling shakshuka, sabich, breakfast sandwiches, some classics. And first year was a little rough selling shakshukas. Detroit is a lot of carnivores in here that need some meat. So the second year we started adding some shawarma to the menu, and it became a huge success. And now a lot of people know what shakshuka is, what shawarma is, and I'm very happy and proud of my business. 2019, we won by popular vote the best food truck in the Metro Detroit, which was a great achievement for hard work. And when people walking down to the food truck and asking for shakshuka and sabich, that really, above all, really makes my heart really happy. And it's just, I feel like I'm doing something great. And I love to experience and to give everyone my experience and how I grew up. And every time I eat on the truck, and I keep telling the people working with me, it's just close your eyes and we imagine you walking in Tel Aviv or in Israel, because this is the exact taste. So just enjoy while you eat it.
Benji, can you tell us where you're located and your website, and then tell us a wonderful recipe, maybe of the eggplant, the sabich sandwich?
Yes, absolutely. So we are in Detroit. We travel all around the metro with the food truck. At the moment, our food truck is closed for the season. It's pretty cold out there, and with the COVID situation, we decided that we are not going to run in the winter. So we are going to take. We started booking for the next season. We're going to start again around March or April. And hopefully everyone will get vaccinated and we can get to see everyone in food festivals and just to see everyone, period. Our website is TruckShuka.com. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We post our events and menu and everything you should know on social media. And in terms of a recipe for sabich, I'm happy to give it to you. And one thing about it, there is one cooking book that I really want to recommend everyone. Basically, I think it's the best cooking book for Israeli food. And if you really want to make amazing recipes, check out Israeli Soul by Michael Solomonov, who wrote Zahav, and he's also the owner of Zahav. But this book, Israeli Soul, has just the best flavors of everything. I tried so many recipes there, and it's just my daughter is happy, my wife is happy, everyone is happy, and my customers too. So the recipe goes for the sabich. Sabich basically is salat beitza chatzil, which is salad, egg, and eggplant. You want to make sure you have a nice fresh pitas for this. I believe you're not going to make the hummus yourself. If you get sabra hummus, that would be great. You want to take eggplant, peel it completely. The peel can be bitter for some people. I like to take it to peel it completely off. But you basically want to slice it 3/4 inches thickness. Sprinkle some salt over everything. Let it sit for about an hour, 45 minutes, just to drain all the eggplant's liquids. Once this is done, you want to use a deep oil pan so you can fry all the eggplants. So you warm up. You want it to be very hot, and then you start frying the eggplant. And you know when it's ready when you get like a gold color, and the eggplant is very crunchy. So basically you want to have hummus. Israeli salad, which is very iconic, is basically just a tomato and cucumber. You want to have pickle, Israeli pickle, everything you can find in Target in your area. Kosher, most of them have like kosher ingredients. And tahini sauce. Which is you take raw tahini, you mix it with water, lemon juice, and garlic. And on top of everything, you're gonna add parsley. So you have a pita with hummus, fried eggplant, Israeli salad, pickles, tahini. And if you're adventurous enough, you can get amba. About how I get my amba. I make my amba myself, which is very, very hard, and it's hard to get the ingredients. But basically, you need to get mango, you need to get amba spice, and you need to get a special vinegar to run with it and mix everything together. So sometimes I buy my amba from other people, but sometimes when they run out, I have to make myself. It's really fun. When you do it, just imagine everything is going to turn into yellow, really yellow in your hands. So at your own risk.
The rabbi wants to know where you get your pita from. Where's the best pita? The best pita.
There are a couple places in Metro Detroit where you can get good pita. I get my pita from a place called Ishtar. It's on Haggerty Road, and I believe it's 15 Mile. But there is another place called Sinbad Bakery. There's about a mile from there, and they also have wonderful pitas there, always fresh and really good.
Babylon, the one that's next to Plum Market,
Yes,
that pita, they have, it's Rabbi Sasson from Keter Torah oversees the hashkacha for that pita. Right. And they bake it over at B'nai Moshe.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask him a question, you're more than welcome to do that. Anybody have any questions?
Just one by one, not everyone at the same time.
Are you certified kosher?
No, we're not. Everything we sell on the food truck is kosher, is labeled kosher, but the business runs on Saturday and holiday, and no, we're not kosher.
Can you make the sabich or the shakshuka vegan?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, shakshuka, it's just the tomato sauce. Yes, we serve it without the eggs for vegan people, and the same with the sabich. It's just to remove the hard-boiled egg.
So nothing goes in instead of the egg. That was the
Exactly.
Okay.
What was the name of the cookbook?
Israeli soul.
Israel.
Soul, soul.
Yes, yes, Israeli soul.
And Benji, it's Kim from Jewish National Fund. Do you know Lior Levsakov, the spice chef from New York City that's going to be working with us in the Galilee Institute?
I did not, but I met, no, I don't. He's the guy that was in the presentation with the short video there on the presentation.
Yes.
No, I don't know this guy.
He has a spice store in New York City, and he has a cookbook and he sells combined spices. He's very big into fresh spices and, as I said, combining spices and what you get from it. And he's Israeli and going to be at the Culinary Institute in Galilee with us. I just was curious.
That sounds really interesting. No, I don't know him. I'll definitely check it out. It sounds really good.
Got it.
Any other questions for Benji?
Benji, this is Julia Pace. Send
Hi.
my love to cousin Jessica.
My wife, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, and also my wife is in here on the call, and I believe my mom is in Israel. So thank you for joining. And
that's beautiful. Okay, so we want to thank you so much for sharing a little bit about some of your recipes and talking about your TruckShuka. I want to make sure that our participants stay tuned for tomorrow. We have, again, our first hours with Baruch, and then the second part, which is a half hour, is going to have a wonderful representative from APAC, and it's Rabbi Jeremy Pappas, who also grew up in the Detroit area. And we're looking forward to having an opportunity to learn about the current plans or what they think will happen with turning the government, the US government, with the change of presidency, the relationship with Israel, as well as the warming of the relationships within the Arab world that we're seeing today. Rabbi Rubenstein, is there anything that you would like to add as we start to close out for the evening?
No, thank you so much. Other than just to say thank you, I thought this was a really great night. It's just fun to sort of be all over and to see some new things, and it just makes me want to get back there in person sometime soon. And I think the next couple of nights, the last 2 nights of the trip, are also going to be really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing people tomorrow. Thanks so much, Ramona.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Kim, any final words?
No, thank you, everybody,
Okay.
for participating tonight. Thank you, Tammy and Jeff, for opening and closing for us, and Benji for coming. And I
thank
hope
you very much for having me. Yeah, it was great.
Okay, Lahitrot, Laila Tov, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you, Sharona.
Thank you, Sharona. Good night. Good night.